If everyone could please put your phones on silent or vibrate, that would be great. We need to do that. Nothing worse than the guy telling you to do it. All right, my name is Richie Stone. I'm the chairman of the Gilmer GOP. We appreciate everyone being here tonight. We're going to start off with we have Kent Sanford here, executive director of the Greater Gilmer Joint Development Authority. He's going to do our introduction.
Please stand with me, if you will, and then remain standing for the pledge after our prayer. Father, we thank you for this time to be together tonight. We thank you for good men and women when they choose to step forward and run for elected office. We just pray, Lord, that you would be with us tonight. As always, we ask for your wisdom above our own in all that we undertake. We ask for blessings upon this wonderful community. You bless us in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First of all, I want to thank ETC, our event sponsors this evening, for letting us host our event here in this room, this wonderful room, and just for everything along the way. I think Jason, somewhere, thank you. This event is benefiting, having all these folks together. It's always a good opportunity to raise some money for something that we care deeply about. Our last forum, we raised money for the Gilmer High Food Pantry, and this event we're raising money for our annual scholarship fund. It's something that, quite frankly, we've had some trouble funding in the past, and I'm sure everyone agrees that it's very important to be able to help some of the kids here in the community get out and go to college and be able to not have to deal with the financial burden, or at least have it lightened. And we take a lot of that annual gift that we give. So anyone out there who can help us, we really appreciate it. We also elected officials. I think our chairman, Charlie Parrish, might be the only one here. Charlie, wave to everybody. A little bit about the format. We're going to go 5-minute opening statements for everybody. I will have the timer here, and when you hear the alarm go off, wrap it up. I'm not going to make you stop immediately, but just know that I might make you stop after another 20 seconds. So we're going to go with the opening statements, and then we have some questions back there. We've gotten several, from what I understand, and we will do a bit of a not rapid fire, but we'll keep it short, 2-minute answers, and we'll switch up where we start. So we'll go down the list one way, and then we'll go the other way, and then start in the middle, and make sure everybody has a different chance to answer first and answer last. Upon conclusion of the event, everyone got a little orange slip of paper when they came in. That is for our straw poll. Just write down whoever you support, or you can write down undecided and throw it in the box over there marked straw poll. We will be announcing the results on our Facebook page this evening, so if you haven't liked our page, please do. Tell your friends to like it. Really want to grow that. And lastly, just I think the importance of this event cannot be underscored enough. We've already had one forum last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago now, for the candidates for this race, and I'm excited about the opportunity for us to really extend the conversation. I know that a lot of people care deeply about this race, so it should be a wonderful opportunity. So without further ado, Mr. Biggs, if you'd like to start us off, we'll go in alphabetical order.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Biggs. My wife and I, Shelley, have been married for almost 30 years. We have 3 children, Casey, Jamie, and William. My son-in-law, Brad.
Can't hear you. Louder. Louder.
How's that? Okay. I'll lean forward. My daughter and son-in-law provided us with my first grandson, Finley, and he's a Gilmer County native. We're very proud of that fact. Shelley and I weren't born here, and we chose to live here. Casey and Brad followed, and then my son moved here after he was discharged from the Marine Corps when he returned home from Afghanistan. I've got several nieces and nephews that live here, and I've got several in-laws that live here too. As you can see, just like everyone here, I've got a vested interest in this community. I spent 20 years in law enforcement in Atlanta and Metro Atlanta. I was awarded the Law Enforcement Purple Heart as a result of line of duty injury. Had several surgeries that were unsuccessful, so I was no longer performing the duties of a police officer. Fortunately, I was blessed with being given a second career, working for a very large Atlanta-based corporation as a regional security manager, where I oversee multi-million-dollar budgets and I oversee contracts dealing with vendor security companies. And I also operate the business continuity plans for several operating locations in Alabama, Georgia, Puerto Rico, protecting billions of dollars in assets. And with overseeing these budgets, I have to prioritize my wants versus my needs. And that's a tough thing to do. So I have to be aware of the economic trends while understanding the basic fact that what goes up must come down. And I think this community is far too familiar with the economy going up and down, and the fact that we were told numerous times that the sales tax would pay for the loan we have with the courthouse. I also serve on the board of directors of Regional Auto Theft Task Force, and I'm currently working with several state officials to legislate creation of a statewide auto crimes task force. I've said this before many times. I'm not a politician. I don't mingle in political circles. I'm just a concerned taxpayer, property owner, husband of a small business owner, and a firm believer that our elected officials should always be cognizant that they work for what is in our best interest. That brings me to my platform, and it's pretty simple on the surface. First and foremost, respecting taxpayer dollars. We work hard to make a living. We spend time away from our homes and our families to put food on the table, clothes on their backs, and a roof over their heads. When we get our checks, we see how much we pay into taxes, and it's concerning to see those dollars not being respected. Secondly, roads and bridges need to be a top priority so that we can get from place to place without damaging our vehicles. I can personally attest to this as being a fact. I've also been told by some of our first responders there are a couple of roads that are impassable. They have to get out of their vehicles and walk to residences. That's a safety concern for the residents and the first responders. Small business is the backbone of this country. Whether it's farm, ranch, winery, or something else, we need to ensure they are supported to the best of their ability. The Gilmer Chamber is an asset that we must continue to support as they support our community small businesses. And no, I'm not being endorsed or sponsored by the Chamber, but I am able to recognize what they do for our county. Responsible growth and development. That's where the community's involvement comes in. Each of you must voice your feelings, thoughts, and recommendations. I certainly don't have all the answers, so it is your responsibility to reach out to your elected officials and provide your input. If you reach out and don't get a response, use your ability to cast a vote to elect someone that will make time to listen to your concerns. Franklin Roosevelt said, "Let us never forget that government is ourselves and not an alien power over us. The ultimate rulers of our democracy are not a president and senators and congressmen and government officials, but the voters of this country. This is our county and our responsibility." Now, this is a very high-level overview of who I am and what I represent. If you'd like more information or have questions or recommendations, please feel free to contact me. Or go to my Facebook page, elect Jason Biggs, Gilmer County Post 1 Commissioner, or come by my table. I look forward to speaking with you, and I sincerely appreciate each of you being here tonight, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cash.
Well, if it isn't my favorite Republicans.
It's good to see you this evening. I'm Al Cash, and I'd like to be your next Post 1 Commissioner. But first, a big thank you to the ETC folks and the Gilmer County Republican Party for hosting this evening's event. So a little bit about Al Cash. The most important thing about me is this little blonde-headed lady sitting up here with the red sweater. That's my beautiful wife, Martha. We were married 17 years ago on a schooner in the middle of Tampa Bay, Florida. Ever since that day, she's been my fair wind and my calming seas. I'm an Air Force veteran. I have 13 years law enforcement, during which time I attained my bachelor's and master's degrees from Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida. I then opted from law enforcement, I then opted for a safer way of life and went to work for State Farm Insurance, worked for them for 30 years. The first 15 years was as an insurance adjuster, a claims adjuster, where I specialized in litigating third-party claims. The second 15 years was as an IT specialist. So with all that, what makes me the right choice for the Post 1 Commissioner post? Well, it's in my prescription for life and for work and for politics. I call it integrity. And you've heard me say this before. I've based my entire life on it. In fact, I hope it's my legacy that I leave to my children and grandchildren. The principles of integrity, I recall an author, Clement Stone, who defined integrity as having the courage to say no, having the courage to face the truth, and doing the right thing because it's right. Well, how do these principles relate to me in the Post 1 Commissioner's office? Well, first, I do know when and how to say no. There are situations and circumstances that absolutely demand the person be able to say no. And generally, it's for the simple reason that there's not enough money. We do that at home, we do that in our businesses, and we do that in politics. I can say no, but I can do it with diplomacy and with positivity. Second, facing the truth. Facing the truth is an anchor in every storm that we face in life. As your Post 1 Commissioner, I promise to dig up facts. Facts are truth behind every line item on our budget. And when integrity tells me it's time to say no, by golly, I'll say no because it's the right thing to do. Thirdly, how does a person know when it's the right thing to do? It's not in your books and it's not in your diplomas. It's in the natural law of man, which is right here in our hearts. And being able to access what's in your heart at the same time accessing what's in your mind is what is the key to making it work. So what about these hot buttons we have here in Gilmer County? Well, Carter's Lake's definitely one of them. I'm a firm believer that we cannot give up the peace and beauty of the lake and its parks. And neither can we afford to give up the $10 million that those visitors bring to this county every year. I believe we have to do everything within our power to retain those parks and access to the lake. But to do so, we need to do that within the income that the lake brings in and our budget, because it's the right thing to do. The pool. I do believe we need a new pool. It's vital to the overall good of Gilmer County, particularly for the health and sport and teamwork for our youth who will ultimately govern this county. We struggled with the location for a while, but it appears our best choice for budget and location concerns is to tear out the old pool and put the new one in there. We're hoping that we can add a wading pool at the same time. I promise to monitor this process and keep a steady eye on the budget as we go through it, because it's the right thing to do. Roads. If we could do everything that was being requested now, we'd need another $25 million. But as my grandson is fond of saying, that ain't happening. And I personally contacted our public safety folks and our law enforcement officials to find out what are the areas in the county that really need the most attention. And when I get those answers, I will evaluate those fairly and competently. Those are my values, and I would apply them to post one commissioner position. Thank you for your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Parker?
Gilmer County, great place to live, work, and play. My wife and I were fortunate enough to be born here and spend our teenage years here. After graduating from high school, I attended college, and then moved on to the business world. In Savannah, I worked in public accounting and became a certified public accountant. After 3 years there, I had an opportunity to join the Business and Financial Organization at the University of Georgia, and that's where I spent most of my career, retiring there after 33 years. Although I left Gilmer County to find employment, my heart has never left the county. Returned to the county to visit family and friends, we kept up with what was going on in local government. In 1966, while still living in Savannah, we began purchasing property here. We paid property taxes here every year since 1966. I am invested in Gilmer County, and I want to be a part of a government that is responsive to its citizens, but operates efficiently and effectively. For the last 15 plus years, I have attended over 100 Board of Commissioner meetings, Planning Commission meetings, Board of Tax Assessor meetings. Additionally, I have represented the county on the Northwest Georgia Regional Commission for a number of years. Currently, I serve on the board of the LJ Gilmer County Water and Sewer Authority. All of these have given me an opportunity to learn about the challenges facing the county and its citizens, and will serve me well should I be elected post one commissioner. Additionally, my extensive business and financial background will serve me well as post commissioner. A few things we need to talk about, of course, roads and bridges. We all know there's additional funding needed there. But I want to talk about jobs. We need to find a way to keep our young people in the county if they desire to stay here. Now, lots being done on that already, and we need to continue that. We have the public-private initiative that we refer to as CORE. This is a facility that provides incubator space to startup businesses, which also serving as a focal point for working with the local school system to give students an introduction to business and to also help provide a curriculum that supports their introduction to business. CORE has also been instrumental in arranging for mentoring of high school students and introducing them to real-world business situations. We need to continue to provide resources to the Joint Development Authority as they recruit businesses on behalf of the county. As they recruit businesses, of course, we have to be mindful of the type of businesses we recruit and make sure we keep the same quality of life that we enjoy now. We need to recognize and appreciate the value of dollars spent by visitors. This is the least cost to the county for the dollars it brings in. Of course, a great example of tourism is our apple houses, our vineyards, and of course, cabin runners. We must continue to have the chamber support tourism, to provide them with funding to support tourism. We need to identify possible funding sources that might help us to expand the water system and sewer system out into the county. All this while we continue to work to preserve our great natural resources while making them available to our citizens and visitors for their enjoyment. The county faces many challenges, but it also has many opportunities. Working together, we can solve the critical issues facing the county take advantage of the opportunities available to the county and its citizens. I want to continue to move Gilmer County forward. We cannot rest. Yes, I have much more to learn about the county. I'm a hard worker and I'm willing to learn. Thank you, and I look forward to visiting with you more tonight.
Thank you. Dr. Ed Stover, ready?
Ready to go? If you don't mind, I won't talk but about 2 hours, okay? I'd like to say that I grew up in Gilmer County, and I spent the first 17, 18 years of my life here. And went to school here. When I went away to school, I ended up at UTC, and please do not hold that against me. I have people that want to hold that against me all the time. But anyhow, I went to UTC and ended up with a master's in education, taught school a little while, and from there, I went into to medicine, of all things. Went to medical school, I think I was about 30 years old, a little bit too old to get into medical school, but I did. And so, enjoyed my career in medicine. I was a primary care physician. Now, I know a little bit about it after 20 years. I worked with the Department of Justice most of this time. Did work with a short while with an older doctor here in the county, a guy by the name of Dr. Snyder. I don't know if anybody remembers this fellow, but I think he lived to be about 90-something, as I understand it. And so anyhow, he's a super nice guy. But anyhow, I went to work with the federal government in the Department of Justice. And what did I do in the Department of Justice? I worked in the federal prison system for 20 years, so I know what that's all about. And I did a lot of stuff that ordinarily I probably wouldn't have had an opportunity to do, if you call it opportunities. I got to work with the FBI quite a bit. And they had, back in those days, what they called prisoner transport. Well, when they needed to transport somebody, who would they holler for? I would be on a plane with them heading to Rochester, Minnesota, or wherever. And so, had a good time. I was a hostage negotiator, believe it or not. I had this southern accent. I could kind of get on with the southerners, okay? And I was doing that when David Koresh and his ordeal came about, if any of you remember that. But anyhow, had a lot of experiences, and it was very good from the standpoint of wonderful career. And they moved me all over the country. I ended up retiring out of Northern California. Had to have a place to come back to, so where else to come back to? Right back here at home. So I don't regret it a bit. It's been a very enjoyable career. I want to talk a little bit about what I stand for. I am a very conservative candidate. I believe in conservatism all the way. Let me just bring that out right off. I voted for Trump, excuse me if it offends anybody, voted for Pence. I will do the same thing again, because I feel that our economy right now is going pretty good. I've had an opportunity to talk to some of the bankers, and one of the things, a big concern is about how long they think this money thing is going to keep on going,
as far as our home building. Well, most of them feel it's at least gonna go for another year or so. I see Kent back there, sort of grinning. And so, he probably knows. But you can't expect things to go on forever and ever and ever. You know, there is gonna be a bubble. We don't know when it'll be. But I think the home builders are enjoying a lot of the economy right now, and the bankers are. And, I wanna change gears and talk about something that I think hits this county pretty hard, and that's the medical community. I haven't heard anybody say anything about that. Most of us, if you're about my age, you know what Medicare is. And you know that every time you go to Canton, or one of the other places, what are you required to have? You're required to have that Medicare card. And so you take that Medicare card out, and hopefully you've got some additional insurance, and that's what takes care of your medical bills. I think we're gonna be seeing some real changes in the medical area in the next few years. I've seen a lot just since I've been retired. And I guess he's telling me I need to be quiet. But anyhow, just know if I'm elected to serve you, that I will do my best, and that's all I can go for.
Thank you, Dr. Ed Stover. All right, Jerry. All right. Jerry Tuso.
Thanks to ETC for sponsoring us and the GOP. I used to be in GOP, you know, here locally. I was vice chairman and chairman for 12 years. A lot of fun memories, a lot of fun times. Still going after it. We were instrumental, I think, in what was the percentage, Rita? We got votes for, we worked so hard for Trump, 82, 88% in this county. And that's because your GOP group got out there and got with it, and you people got with it too. So we got a great president. I'm an Air Force veteran. I spent 4 years in the Air Force. As an air traffic controller, spent most of the time in Japan and South Korea. After I got out of the Air Force, I went to work for the FAA. 21 years as an air traffic controller, which is really unusual, because most of them don't last that long. I guess maybe I was just dumber than the rest of them. But most of them went out sick. So after that, a couple odd jobs, then I got another job. Since I was an air traffic controller, I was contacted by some contractors who wanted to bid on FAA towers and FAA weather sites. And they needed information on how it all worked, and could I help them? I did that for 23 years. I helped with the negotiations on them, with the federal government, and I'm not just talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm talking about over 23 years, 20 to 23 years, I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars involved. Most people don't know it, but there are 102 FAA weather sites across the nation. 102. Those are all contracted. Those are all contracted. There's 80-some FAA control towers. Those are all contracted. Now, somebody's got to bid on those. Somebody's got to work it. They asked me to do it. I did it for that time. Been in Gilmer County for 16 years. The reason we got here, that was probably abused the ladies. It was my birthday 16 years ago. And my wife said, my wife Chris, who's not here because she'd rather go see the grandbaby in Kansas City. She said, let's take a ride up the mountain. So we did, November 1st. 3 weeks later, I bought a house in Quinn Springs subdivision, been there ever since. I want to talk about some things we need to do, just briefly. I know they've talked about roads and they've talked about other things, and they talked about the pool, and you know, I agree with a lot of them, but I'd like some more information on all of them before I could say yea or nay. I'm not waffling on that. I'm just saying I don't think there's enough information, and I'm sure we'll get it from Charlie when being in charge. I think the issue we need about the growth is growth that's sustainable. And the only way we're gonna get any growth is to start with our infrastructure. If you don't have infrastructure, you're not gonna have growth. We've gotta have that. We've gotta have that. We can have that. The builders can go, they can start building. Gilmer can profit that. When the builders are making money, Gilmer County is making money from what they are doing. They're bringing money in here. The other thing I want to talk about is this is not my first rodeo, by the way. Tax breaks. I know that we've got all these groups going, they're bringing in business and stuff, but I haven't, maybe it has been discussed, but I haven't heard anything said about giving the company tax breaks. Small to medium companies come in here, and the builders build them, and we give them a tax break for a few years, whatever it is, work it out, make a deal. People say, oh my gosh, we didn't get the tax money from that. Well, you weren't getting it before, so why not get it sometime? And I think that's a big issue. We've got to have growth, but it's got to be sustainable. I don't want another Atlanta. And I don't want, I'm sorry, Mr. Builders, I don't want quad hotels, quad apartments. I don't want that. I don't want that. I want it to keep going like we're going in the housing area. And I think we can do it if we have the will. I've always been a servant in my life, but I've tried to be fair to all people at all times, which is difficult. You can't do it. But you got to do your best. If you can't make it, then you just suck it up and you move on. And like our good friend said here, you're going to do it right. Make sure it's right and do it. Now, I've seen, we'll leave it like this, just quickly. In the past, I've seen a lot of things in commission meetings where people involved were trying to lead. They're trying to lead the commission. I'm not naming names or saying anything, I ain't asked anything like that. But I think the role of the post commissioner is to assist the commissioner, not to lead. Of course, to object when you think something's wrong, but you're there to help. And we've got a good one. I think we're going to continue to do so. And I thank you now for your vote.
All right, we got plenty of questions. Thank you to everyone for that. Start here with Jerry. We'll work
All right, I'm
the
warmed up.
way we did before. But what I'm going to do this time around is I will bring you the mic and we'll just pass it. So we
I won't hit you.
Okay. Thank you for not. Okay, so the first question, with the announcement of a need to cut up to $1 million from the county budget, do you agree with those cuts, or would you find another way to generate revenue? We'll do 2 minutes or fewer, just depending on how much you want to add to it.
Just a minute. Well, first of all, you have to investigate why you're suffering under this. Can you hear me all right?
Neither
Can you hear me without it?
No.
No. Well, you old guys can. All right. First of all, you got to find out why you're cutting. What caused the cut?
I think the mic's off.
That's better. First of all, you got to find out why you have to make the cut. Maybe you investigate that and find out it doesn't have to be that much. But even if it is, I'm going to tell you honestly, being in business for all the years I was, there's fat somewhere. You can find it. You can cut Charlie's salary. Teasing you, Charlie. But there is fat in anything, in any business, in what you do. And I think with a concerted effort, even if you have to spend a little bit more to bring in somebody to investigate it, it's best to do it. That's my answer.
Yeah, just pass it on now.
Oh,
Okay, if you had $1 million.
No. The same question.
I'm
The
sorry.
announcement of a need to cut $1 million from the budget. Do you agree with the cuts, or would you find another way to generate revenue?
I think I would use both. You know, I think if you can cut, if the circumstances arise and you can cut budget, go for it. If you can't, you might need to go another route. That would be pretty much how I would feel about it.
All right. All right. Go around you this way. Barbara, same question. Raise your hand.
Maybe I don't understand the situation, but I don't think we're talking about cutting the budget. We're talking about cutting the budget requests. There's a lot of difference in cutting the budget and cutting people's wish list. So I don't think we're talking about cutting the budget. Now, I haven't seen everything that's been proposed, but I think there's a lot that can be done there. It'll be a tough job, but Charlie has done it before. But again, we're not talking about cutting the budget. Everybody has a wish list. So let's just whittle down their wish list. Thank you.
I have the same concerns or the same impression that Hubert has. It's not necessarily $1 million shortage. It's in the budget, it's $1 million over what was being requested. Being requests from the individual departments are exceeding what we anticipated our budget was going to be for the year. So our job would be to find out what's a wish and what is a need, whittle that down, to use my friend's words here, and find out exactly where we are. We can, I understand that part of that $1 million is a reserve that we would like to have, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. Coming from the insurance business, a reserve is absolutely necessary. So my thought is, let's trim down the wish list and look at the want list.
To answer the question the way it was posed, if we had to cut the budget by $1 million, then I would say, yes, we need to cut it. But we need to look at what we're spending. And I know this is a hot topic, but if we have to cut the budget for $1 million, why aren't we putting the $1.2 million into a swimming pool? You gotta separate the wants and the needs. Now, to answer the other question, if it's just trimming the fat off of the budget, then the wish list, then yeah, the department heads need to be very specific about what they want. Because right now, after hearing some of the budget discussions, the numbers are very far off. They're saying, one of them says, well, I need $175,000, but it could be $200,000. Well, I would like to know exactly what it is, not an estimate. And I think that we need to really look at it that way.
I think just hang on to it, and we'll, actually, start with Mr. Parker. What is your stance? What is your stance on new agritourism as it relates to vineyards and tasting rooms?
I think vineyards have proven to be terribly popular and beneficial for the county. I'm not sure I understand the total question, but there's no question they're valuable to the county. It brings in a lot of tourism. So I think it's a vital part of our agriculture. We are an agricultural-based economy, and I think we'll continue to be, but I think it's very important that we keep these vineyards and we keep adding, which we're doing.
Just have to go on the other line one more time.
Agritourism is becoming a new buzzword. It's a viable buzzword. It's working all over the state of Georgia. With respect to the question, I believe that the vineyards are doing Gilmer County an awful lot of good. They're bringing in income from out of state. It's being spent locally. It's giving us jobs. It's creating an industry that's clean and appealing to people coming through the county. I support it 100%.
I want to add to it, Mr. Bates, would you support expansion? You know, do the same answer.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Just so we don't have to do the same, I know it gets a bit repetitive if everyone has the same question, so feel free to expand.
Well, I really don't have much expansion on it. It's a small business, and I support that. It brings a lot of revenue into the county. It brings a lot of tourists here, and they really enjoy it. So I'm fully supportive of it.
Thank you. Derek?
Well, I don't know who could say they don't support the vineyards. Of course, I support them as well. I don't know how many vineyards along we can have before they start not making money, but they're doing a great job now. I'm very happy with them. And believe me, I've been to some of them, just checking them out. But I have another idea as well for the agribusiness. How about we build a small agri-school where kids can be taken out and shown how to do these things, how to grow things, how to garden, how to do that kind of work. Everybody can't be a college professor. Some people's got to be the worker bee, and I think this would be a great way to do it.
I too will go along with the other gentleman. I think the winery business has been something that's really added to tourism and to the folks that come up here from different parts of the state and from wherever. I don't know just exactly how much revenue it brings into the county. I'm sure someone here knows that, but I think it will be a failure if we decided to get rid of our wineries. We just can't do that.
All right, we'll stick with you, Dr. Stone.
I'm sorry?
Oh, we'll stick with you for the next round. This one is a little bit more about economic development that we've received. How do we keep our town? Do you think we should attract industry or should we focus on tourism and retirees?
What a question. I really think we can do have the retirees up here, and obviously there may be a limit. I'm not so sure. I don't have the information on that, but you know, it's very important that we have people coming up here that enjoy the mountains and the parks and all that stuff. We got to have it for the growth of the county.
All right. Yep. Same question.
Well, read it to me again if you will.
How do we keep our young talent? Do you think we should attract industry or should we focus on tourism and retirees?
Well, I don't think you can limit things to just those two. I think we need retirement people up here as well, but we need medium to small business. I don't want to see a General Motors come up here, especially since they're on strike. I look, every time I go out 52 East, I look at all that land out there, and I think, my God, it's not being developed. What we could do with that. there's a lot more we could do with East Gilmer County. And I think that's where we could look at the development as far as small businesses are concerned. And give me another minute. Coming up here 16 years ago, you could come up 575 and 515. Once you go by Sixes Road, Katie bar the door, you never saw another car. Now you're hitting Jasper and it's still crowded all the way up. Things are changing, we gotta change with it, and we gotta make it desirable to come here. And that's gonna be from all the facets of this issue.
So how do we keep our talent? I wonder, in the back of my mind, if that's something that we really need to focus on. When the kids get out of school and they're looking for college, do they want to stay here? Do they want to move on to bigger or better things? Is keeping them here the right thing to do? It's just a thought, but if they do want to stay and it's their choice, then we have two options that they can look at. They can look at tourism. There's a lot of tourism going on. We've already talked about the vineyards. We've talked about Carter's Lake a little bit. There's apple houses everywhere. There's good tourism for them to be involved in. The retirees, they're going to live here because they want to. That's not because of anything we're doing for them, other than giving them good utilities and good government and good citizenship. So let the talent that wants to stay here stay. And if they want to grow bigger, let them grow bigger.
I think we have to have small business. We can become stagnant in a hurry, but we must have small business. We must have small business. We become stagnant if we're not careful. It's important that the type of business we try to attract, so we maintain our quality of life. I think about small business. I talk about the core and the incubator, small startups. I'm not insisting people stay here if they don't want to stay, but I've had a lot of people say, I had to leave, as I did, to find a job. So let's give them the opportunity. I think that's the key. Give them an opportunity. Give small business an opportunity. A lot of that will be homegrown small business with core and startups like that. I love the retirees. I happen to be one. Let's welcome retirees. I want this to be a welcoming community to visitors and newcomers. So let's keep it going.
One of the reasons I moved up here was when we got married in 1990, we moved to Paulding County. Paulding County was dirt roads and gravel roads and pastures, and we loved it. And then within 5-6 years, we went to the third fastest growing county in the nation, and it was terrible. The traffic's terrible, the infrastructure was not able to handle it, and it was just an awful mess. And that was the biggest reason we moved up here. I have absolutely no problem with growth, but it needs to be controlled, and we need to make sure that we have the infrastructure to handle it.
All right, we'll keep it right there with you for the next one. I'm going to bump these down to 1 minute for quick answers. What is your position on the aquatic center? Would you support issuing bonds to pay for it?
No, I would not.
That was easy.
I think we have enough issue with bonds as it is. I can't find it in my heart to support that right now, especially without any further information.
I don't think it's going to be necessary. Chairman Parrish is working on a plan, and I don't think we'll have to worry about that.
I believe if Chairman Parrish is working on a plan, we need to stick to that plan. think it would probably be one of the better ones.
No.
All right, and then here's another one, just another quick answer. Do you consider yourself to be a fiscal conservative, moderate, or liberal? And we'll just start with Jerry and come on back down.
Well, I'm a fiscal conservative because I have to be. You know? I'd say moderate to fiscal, to moderate to really strong conservative.
Strong conservative.
Well, if you look at my background, it's not hard to figure out where I'm coming from. My daughter used to say, yeah, all the accountants wear lace-up shoes. So we're conservative. You ask my wife, she'd say, yes, he's very conservative. I think I'm a reasonable conservative, reasonable person. And it's not, conservative gets a lot of use now, but reasonableness is really the key to so many things. Reasonableness. And I think that's where we are.
I'm sort of in between conservative and moderate. I'd like to know that if there's money that needs to be spent somewhere, and we have to do that, we can do it. So, right in the middle between conservative and moderate.
I am as far leaning conservative as you can possibly be.
All right, we'll just leave it there with you and go on to this next one. What is your stance on increasing budget funds for the county-run White Path Golf Course?
Well, this is another opinion I have. I honestly do not think government should be in the business of business. Everything is wonderful when the economy's going good and it's generating revenue, but what happens when it stops generating revenue? Then it comes back on the taxpayers, and that is something that I cannot support.
It's my understanding that White Path Golf Course is doing quite well this year, considerably better than last year, and it continues to improve almost monthly. My opinion is that the government needs to stay out of it, let White Path make its money. It's building its own reputation and doing extremely well. It should stay that way.
Golf courses are expensive entities. When I retired, that was one of the areas I had, which is kind of unusual for my normal work. They're not profit makers ordinarily, but I think this golf course, it's extremely important to have this golf course. It's in great shape now, as I understand it. Even if we don't quite break even, I think it's too important an asset to even think about doing something else with it. Let's keep it.
I think as long as the golf course is doing well, we need to hang on to it.
I think we ought to leave it as it is. It's my understanding that there are not a lot of options if something should go wrong on how we would handle getting rid of it. It seems to me that there's a legal aspect there that we have to do our best to keep it. And if that is true, as I'm sure that it is, then I think we ought to keep it like it is, as long as it's doing well. And it is bringing in tourist money. And if it starts to weaken, then we need to look at it and bolster it back up. Leave it with me.
Sure. All right, so this one's a little longer. Appreciating there are budget constraints, what strategies will you put into place for paving roads and road maintenance? For example, do roads that have commercial industries get priority?
Well, I think some of those entities are already got favoritism over the years. And on the other hand, I don't think with 200 miles of unpaved roads that we're in any kind of financial shape to do anything about it. However, should the money come in, I would say that we look at it closely, and if we can and we're able, that we do 50% improvement to each entity.
Okay, I believe the question was, should we show favoritism to some of the businesses? I think maybe if there is an entity that is willing to come to this county. I think you turned it off.
Turn it around.
Are we on? I think if there's an entity that wants to come to the county and maybe a little help coming from the government, the county government would assure them a place here in the county. I think we might need to look at that, because if we're looking at different types of businesses that should come in, let's not only look at the agribusiness, but let's look at other kinds of businesses that may want to come in.
Appreciating there are budget constraints, what strategies will you put into place for paving roads and road maintenance? For example, do roads that have commercial industries get priority?
I think this is where you're talking about 3 commissioners sitting down and establishing priorities. It's not necessarily what I think, but we all 3 have to put our heads together. Obviously, there's not enough money. We have to establish priorities. But it's a matter of the 3 commissioners sitting down and hashing it out. Here's the money we have. Where do we put our priorities?
I'm going to steal a little bit of Commissioner Parris's wisdom here. I'd like to have a town hall meeting for the whole county, find out where are the problems. We all live in areas that we recognize there are problems, but who has the most needy problems at the time? And that needs to be evaluated. As far as favoritism, I'm a person that I don't play favorites, I don't make deals, I don't do quid pro quo. It's a matter of the neediest, and is there enough money to go around to cover the neediest?
This goes back to priorities. You look at which road needs it the worst. If there are locations that can't get emergency services, that's where you go first. And then you work your way back.
All right. So we have one more. It's the one that I gave all of you when we first walked in. Literally the $1 million question. I'm going to put 2 minutes on there so you can answer the question and give a bit of a final statement. But to everyone else, the question I asked them was, if you were given $1 million to spend on the county, how would you do it? It's simple, pretty cut and dry there. But I think it might give some good insight on who everyone is. So we'll start here with Mr. Parker and go this way and on down.
I think we've all heard you said tonight, roads and bridges. I noticed Mr. Parrish got his hand out for that check too, by the way. But I think we have to say roads and bridges. It's not a topic we really like to talk about, but I think that's our option.
$1 million. Right, that's great for a household, but it doesn't go very far in the county budget. It wouldn't go very far at all. I'm going to steal a little bit of Richie's thunder earlier and not to patronize, but I'd suggest that a good sum to be determined later should go to the scholarship that he was talking about earlier. And me being a fair-minded person, I'd like to see that money just split up between the department heads for them to do with what they can. That's parks and recs, roads, public safety, anybody, maintenance, split it up evenly. I said the $1 million isn't going to go very far in any one department.
I don't think I'm gonna surprise anybody. Roads and bridges. Look, seriously, for all of these other things, I'm not opposed to recreation by any means. But it is so irritating to me that I can't get to these areas without damaging my vehicle. And that goes the same for several other people in this community. So that $1 million would go to the roads and bridges. Now, I want y'all to understand, I don't have anything against Mr. Parris. I think he's doing a wonderful job. He's got a hard job to do because we got $4.1 million debt we have to pay back every single year for that courthouse. And that's a bad situation for him to be in, so I appreciate everything he does.
Well, I had written down roads and bridges too. And maybe we could all get together as a group of Republicans and add another one to it.
Well, I hate to be the dissenter, but $1 million won't build you a bridge, and it won't build many miles of road at $80,000 a mile. So my pet is to use the $1 million along with the grant from the state to build double-deck parking around the county courthouse.
It's in front of the dock here. Excellent. All righty, well, that concludes it. The candidates want to go to your tables, and if you guys want to walk around and talk amongst yourselves, that we'd be happy to still have you. And thank you for coming out. Thanks again to ETC. Don't forget, yes, your straw poll ballot over there on the box, and we will announce the results on our Facebook page.
Looking at me. Grab them quick. How are you?